Sahara TV, you're welcome back. They have been credited with conducting the most credible elections in Nigeria. I'm talking about the INEC, the Independent National Electoral Commission. They are also faced with conducting this rather challenging round of polls. That's the gubernatorial elections in Nigeria. Are they going to do as good a job as the international media has credited them with in the presidentials? Joining us on the line right now from Nigeria is Mr. Kayode Idowu. Mr. Idowu is the Chief Press Secretary to the INEC Chairman. You're welcome to Sahara TV, Mr. Idowu.
Thanks for having me on your show.
And thanks for your time. Can I start by asking you, is INEC ready for the gubernatorials?
Yeah, I want to believe so. I believe INEC is as ready as readiness can go. The Commission has used the 2-week gap between the presidential election and these state elections to further increase readiness for the elections. And we are very positive that you will find the elections on April 11 much more seamless than what we had on March 28.
It's interesting that you mentioned that. What's the real difference between this and the presidential election? Are there any peculiar challenges that you are expecting, which you did not necessarily face with the presidentials?
I think it's the other way around. We experienced some challenges in the national elections. Actually, it wasn't just presidential alone, it was both presidential and national assembly elections. And we experienced some challenges in the course of those elections that have been addressed as we speak. The Commission has also brought in additional measures to avert or head off the challenges that we experienced on March 28. For instance, we started the deployment of sensitive materials 24 hours earlier this time. We began on Tuesday. It used to be Wednesday preceding the election day. But for this election, we began on Tuesday so as to get 24-hour extra head start. And that is expected to translate to early commencement tomorrow when the polling stations open. Now, the Commission has also reworked the memorandum of understanding that it has with transporters, because part of the challenge on March 28 was a misunderstanding with transporters who were making demands outside the memorandum of understanding. And now the leadership of the union has been re-engaged, and the gray areas in the MOU have been ironed out. And we believe that with everybody playing through with the responsibilities and obligations under the MOU, we should have no challenge on April 11. And there are other things that the Commission has done. We have decided to make sure that the camps, overnight camps for men and material that we call racks, are fully activated. Ideally, they ought to be activated. But the reality was that they were not all activated for March 28. And the Commission has given express directive that those racks should be activated for April 11 elections, because the racks are a short distance from the polling unit, and men and material are expected to camp overnight in the racks so that they can move early on election day to the polling units and ensure early commencement.
So you mentioned a memorandum of understanding with transporters. Who are these transporters? Is it like a union of transport owners? Who are these?
Oh yeah, the National Union of Road Transport Workers. Because the reality of the fact also is that the Commission does not have within its pool the number of vehicles that are required to deploy to more than 155,000 or about 155,000 voting points. I mean, clearly the commission does not have that number of vehicles. And so in the past, what we have done is to engage the drivers or the transporters on an individual basis. And that leaves much room for a lot of irregularities and misdemeanors, if you like.
That's right.
Because you never know exactly the kind of person you are dealing with. You never know the antecedents, and there are no guarantees other than you meeting and enter an agreement with him. Well, you could have contractual clauses that you put in the agreement, but even if you apply those clauses, the damage will have been done. If he or she, I mean, the driver decides to sabotage you on election day. So these are the issues before now. But now the commission has entered into a memorandum of understanding with the body, the umbrella body, which now guarantees everybody who plays a role during the elections.
Okay, so let me probe this a little further. What kind of checks have you put in place to check this? Because even though you're dealing with a body now, which I'm sure is easier to manage and to supervise, isn't there still a danger that you may have a few recalcitrant members who may, indulge in the misdemeanors you just mentioned a while ago?
Yeah, you are right. You see, these things are in every endeavor. You have the human factor. It's not quantum physics that you could say, well, you can predict with complete statistical accuracy. So yes, human factors will come in, but the point is that dealing with the union considerably reduces the chances of this kind of misdemeanors we are talking about, because the union guarantees those that come in. The union, in the memorandum of understanding, part of the terms is that the union will have done due diligence on everybody.
Is there, my real question to you, though, Mr. Idowu, is there any checks and balances with this system? Is anybody overseeing what the union is doing? Do you have somebody actually looking over the union's shoulder, making sure that none of your efforts are compromised?
Yeah, the commission is a client to the union, and the MOU has contractual clauses, legally binding contractual clauses that can be invoked if there is any breach of the understanding.
Okay, that's still understood, sir, but I'm sorry for really flogging this particular question.
Yeah,
but I think what I'm really trying to get at is, let's take a scenario, let's take a hypothetical situation that a vehicle leaves the INEC office with ballot material headed for polling unit A. Is there, for instance, a representative from INEC that goes with the vehicle to make sure that from point A to point B, nothing happens in between? Is there like a security attaché kind of thing?
Oh, absolutely. Okay, if that's what you are saying. The transporters at no point take the materials by themselves alone. Actually, they do not transport just the materials. They transport men and materials. You see, the way it works is this. When the materials are being deployed, both men and materials are being deployed simultaneously. So when the materials leave the state office, for instance, to the local government office, it goes, both the materials and men and the polling officials go down the line.
Okay.
And when it goes to the next level, both men and materials go down the line until they get to the polling unit. So the transporters are transporting the men and the materials.
And the materials. Okay, that's clear. That's very clear now. Okay, so there were issues with the card reader the other time around. We all remember very well that even President Jonathan himself had issues trying to log on to vote. What has been done to check these these things, these mishaps from reoccurring?
Yeah, again, that's a good question, because the issues that we had with the card readers on election day were quite embarrassing. Embarrassing in the sense that, incidentally, the card readers worked in most of the polling units. It failed in less than 1% of the 155,000 points thereabouts that we are operating. But the irony is that the places where it failed, just like you referred to or you alluded to now, are high-profile places. A number of them are high-profile places that overwhelmed the places where the card readers worked. And so, like the place where Mr. President voted that you mentioned. Now, the commission has been able to identify those things. In the case of Mr. President, let me make that clear. There's actually a more fundamental issue, because what happened was that the card reader did not read the card at all. And this is actually to be interrogated further, whether the issue, the card itself, are we sure that the card has not been damaged, maybe in the course of handling or things like that? All that is going to be interrogated. But in most of the other places where we had challenges, you had issues where, for instance, the card readers did not boot to work. And the reason largely is because one of the network providers for the SIM card that we are using in the card readers required that the SIM card will first be activated with a phone before you plug it in the card readers. The other three networks, we use 4 networks, all the 4 networks. And the other 3 is plug and play. Once you put the SIM card in the card reader, it picks up and it starts working. But one of them did require that for each own SIM card, you needed to put it in the phone, activate first, before you put in the card reader. This was part of the training for our staff in the course of training, but for whatever reason, in some areas, these things were not done, and the card reader just inserted directly, and the card reader didn't pick up. So it was as we are now calling out to tell them, if it is this particular network, please activate the card in the phone first before you put it. That was when these card readers began to actually work on March 28th itself. So a directive has gone out now to say every card of that network must first be activated with the phone before they are used in the card reader. And once this is done, we are very optimistic that you will not have those challenges that we saw on March 28th. Okay. The challenges of March 28th were not challenges of the deficiency of the product. It was more the problem with handling. And this problem with handling has been addressed.
I hear you say that, but that was actually going to be my next question to you, because there were also concerns about the officials who conducted who worked for INEC, and the charges that some of them were not well trained enough to handle the materials. What you were saying, per my understanding, is that this has been addressed? Yeah,
of course. You see, it has been addressed. Because there's no denying, that some of the people that you had on the field leave much to desire as to how well they made use of the training that we had. But the reality also is that there were some substitutions that were made, and when you have an operation of the scale that INEC is dealing with, you really can't prevent, or you really can't avert or foreclose the fact that on election morning, some people that you are afraid will just report in sick. And when they report in sick, the elections have to go on. And because elections have to go on, somebody else has to take the place. And so you're talking of about 700,000 people. And of that, you really can't guarantee that everybody will be there.
Okay.
The truth also is that some of these substitutions were also not even scrupulously done. That much must also be acknowledged. But all these have been identified, and the commission has given express directive to say, number one, those substitutions are going to be closely and thoroughly interrogated, and then the ones that were done March 28th, and then for April 11th, the standing instruction is that those that will be deployed must be those who have actually made themselves available for training.
Okay. All right. So there were also accusations of underage voting. We actually saw pictures on social media. Being as we live in the age of photoshopping, we will only ask from the horse's own mouth to tell us about this, underage voting. Were there any people who were not qualified to vote who somehow found themselves voting and the INEC didn't pick it up?
You see, I'm so delighted that you used the word, or you phrased the question the way you have just done, that this is the age of photoshopping and stuff. I may not go that whole length to quickly declare that it was some photoshopping. But honestly, there's a challenge that we've seen with these postings on the social media for underage voters. Number one, I've not seen any of the postings that have identified the specific voting point where the picture of the underage voter took place. And what that means is that it reduces all those things to anecdotes rather than incident reports. We have incidents, we have postings of some people who did thumbprinting, and they mentioned the polling unit number and location, such that you can easily interrogate and investigate what happened there. And you can pin it down to whoever has committed a breach of the procedure. But in the case of underage voting, this day you see this posting say somewhere in Taraba, another place you say is somewhere in Borno, another posting will say somewhere, and you really can't pin it down. And so it leaves it in the realm of anecdotes. But that notwithstanding, the fact remains that the problem of underage voting is not one for INEC alone to deal with. And the reason for that is simple. In a polling environment, where you have the presiding officer as the president of that environment, you also have in that environment party agents. You have observers, and you have voters, and you have security agents. If you have an underage, anywhere you have underage voting, you have a 90% chance that it is a community conspiracy factor. That this, because people know that people in the polling unit know one another largely. And you know, when you say an underage, you know, look, you are not supposed to be here. What are you doing here? You are not of age. Such a person can easily be kicked out of the line by the community itself. But even if that does not happen by the community, party agents are there. If the presiding officer has not seen that underage voter on the queue, the party agent can draw the attention of the presiding officer to say, see this underage voter, call for the arrest of this voter. And then when the presiding officer refuses to do that, then you say INEC is condoning underage voting. But when no report is made, nobody says anything, it goes on as business, and all you just see are postings on the social media with allegations that it happened. What can INEC do with that kind of report?
Okay. All right, sir. Thank you so much. But before you go, can I ask you in a line or two? I've actually eaten into extra time on this interview, but that's only because your answers are so packed and we really want to hear everything you say. Before you go, can we ask you, what is INEC doing in connection with the security agencies to secure, the staff of INEC, voters, and all of that. Are you collaborating with the security agencies in terms of security?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, these 2 weeks since we had the national elections have also been devoted to engaging the security agencies further, to firm up with the arrangements, to identify, to make the risk assessments and draw up operational orders that will be suitable to the risk factors.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Kayode Idowu, Chief Press Secretary to the INEC Chairman. We really appreciate your time, sir.
Thanks for having me on your show.
Sarah TV, stay tuned. Gubernatorial elections 2015, there's more coming.